Now listen, today I'm not here to teach you how to be right in the market, but how to be wrong, because as you know, you have been taught how to be right in the market by everyone that comes to YouTube, right? We want you to explore your fear. I want you to explore your fear, which comes from a part of your brain called the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that is wired for survival. Now, this part of the brain is responsible to detect danger, all right? Now, in trading, danger for the brain is seen as losses. When the amygdala see losses, its quick responses is fear, right? For example, you place a trade and the market starts moving in an opposite direction. What you're going to do? Panic. That panic is triggered from the amygdala, all right? Because you fear to be wrong, all right? So the amygdala triggers panic, and panic means closing the trade a bit early because the amygdala just cannot fathom what just happened, all right? And now you've wondered, why now every time I want to place a trade, I just can't do it after losing that good substantial amount of money, right? Because your amygdala, again, this is the part of the brain that detects fear. So your amygdala remembers the fear that you felt when you've lost that money. Now, it's going to make you overly hesitate, even if the opportunity is good. All right. Now, this is now the best part. Now, how do we calm down the misty amygdala? Because if you don't calm this part of the brain down, it is not only going to ruin your trading life, but also ruin every aspect of your life. So we go to number one. Okay. So number one, you have to shift your mindset. Take a break. Just take a break. To be the best loser in Forex, you must adopt a growth mindset. And that growth mindset is not in the candles, my friend. The growth mindset is in your trauma. Okay? I like that. I like that. The growth mindset is not in the candles, is in the trauma. Trauma of not having nothing. All right, trauma of coming from a place of lack or a place of survival. All right. Now, a place of survival is exaggerated by the capital you already don't have. That alone should tell you where fear is coming from. You shouldn't be wondering why you're scared, where fear is coming from, wandering around to YouTube videos. It's the capital that you don't already have, because your mind knows how much you need to break out of this broke life, right? So that every time you place a trade, the amygdala is already responding with fear because it knows that that's all you have, right? So that means that, my love, you are already in a disadvantage in this business. Let's take that in. Let's take that back in. You are already in a disadvantage in this business, right? So Nolo, how do I calm this amygdala down? Because I have a little in my account and that's all I have and that's all I'm willing to lose. It's actually quite easy. It's nothing new under the sun, as I once said. It's actually easy. You start seeing your losses not as failure, but as valuable lessons. Each loss should provide you with enough insight as to what did you do wrong. All right, whether the trade was made based on an emotional decision, or was it revenge trading, or trading like the market owes you something, right? Or it's just bad luck. Now, sometimes we have to understand that we do have bad days, and bad luck is something that you cannot just wash away. It happened. All right. So for an example, let's say you enter a trade because you received a tip or an instruction from a friend instead of making your own informed decision, looking into the market, looking at your trading setup. You take this tip, now boom, you lose the money. All right. Now, instead of asking yourself and beating yourself up, what did I do wrong? You say, what could I have done differently? Now, this is what we call a reflective practice. And a reflective practice helps a trader to grow. All right. Now, this is something you're going to add on your trading psychology plan, not a trading plan, trading psychology plan, right? After you add that reflective, you create a checklist. Okay, so I understand that engineers have a checklist, all right? Pilots have a checklist. Doctors, even nurses have a checklist. So they don't just start their shift because they want to. They follow a checklist to avoid making mistakes and making irrational decisions based on their emotions. Now I want to ask myself, now why don't I have a checklist? Now why don't you have a checklist? So I'm going to create one for you today, all right? So you're going to create the time of the trade, all right? Is the trade on your fair value gap or on your demand level? All right. The time of the exit of the trade, right? As in price, right? Your stop loss in points, risk per percentage, right? Is it on your London session? Was it on your New York session, right? Did you use a limit order or was it a live execution? Those are all the points you need to add on that plan. Okay? You use the checklist every time you enter a trade, my friend. All right? A checklist is not something you use sometimes. All right? If it does not meet the requirement, the trade of the checklist, there's no trade. You don't freestyle it. You don't leave out even one point from your checklist. If you trade and the trade does not meet the requirement, therefore, that means that it's not in your checklist. That is something else. Why do we do this? Because the amygdala is already triggered, right? Because you'll be operating in a place of fear, right? And we're trying to eliminate that. So we follow the checklist so that the amygdala is not triggered because we're not following structure. So that is number 3. We embrace risk as part of the business. We don't look at it as something that is scary. So in Forex, risk is a fundamental aspect of trading. Embracing this risk can help you develop resilience. And that is where you want to be as a trader, a resilient trader, not a terrified, scared chicken trader. All right. It's essential to understand that it's not about losing. It's not about winning. And losing is not the opposite of winning. It's the same. Right? So I would say by accepting that losses are a natural part of trading, then you can approach the market with a clearer and calm mindset. Okay? Because that's where we want to be. We want to be chilled. We want to be clear. Because you're trying to trick the brain to know no difference between losing and winning. You stay calm. You breathe, my friend. So since I know that it's not something you want to do, you don't want to breathe properly, okay? It's not something that is in your regime. It's not something that is in your routine. So you need to start by doing this every 2 minutes, right? You set your little timer you breathe. You breathe properly, right? Remember, you're trying to encourage the brain with small little steps because you're not used to this breathing. So you're not just going to start with big steps. So you're going to start small. The brain likes small steps, right? It wants consistency. Then you add that to your regime, all right? I once mentioned this. When you breathe properly, all right? Why you would ask, why do we always talk about breathing? Yes, because when you breathe properly, you improve your focus. You improve your memory. You improve your energy, right? And now we are trying to help the brain see losses and wins as the same thing. So if you don't breathe throughout your nose, which is the right way to breathe, as I mentioned on my last video, you are going to delay the brain. You are going to take a long time to register the memory of seeing losses and wins as the same thing. I like that. And it's quite important to do so. Let's go to number 4, which is building emotional resilience. All right. Now, I understand. Trust me, I do. Trading is a roller coaster, right? All right. Trading is so intense that a single loss, all right, can trigger so many feelings. It triggers fear. It triggers anxiety. It triggers self-doubt. But here's where being the best loser come into play. You acknowledge and accept the losses, right? You build your emotional resilience, as I said. You learn to manage your emotions, all right? This will help you, right, to make easier for yourself, or to make easy for yourself to bounce back, right, after a setback. You're not stressed, you're not panicking because you got that checklist, right? Now, when you reach this point of emotional resilience, you no longer control by your amygdala. You actually confused it. And that's exactly where you want to be, my friend. Confuse the amygdala, right? That's exactly where you want to be in your trading. Because when you have trained the amygdala to not see the difference between losing and winning, right? Which is exactly where you want to be as a Forex trader. What now have you done to it, the amygdala? When you have trained the amygdala to not see the difference, you reach a point where breathing is now a norm to you. You stop celebrating high win rates. Why would you say that, Nolly? You stop celebrating high win rates, right? You don't do that. You never do that. But what do you celebrate? You celebrate small, controlled losses, right? Because that is where capital preservation comes in, right? Why do we celebrate small wins? To help the brain to stop panicking. Stop panicking about the money, because you now are able to build it, right? The brain is now trusting you. I don't think you heard me. You don't celebrate high win rates, right? You celebrate small, controlled losses to help the brain stop panicking about the money, because it's now trusting you, the trader. Because now you have proven to the brain that, hold on, brain, I'm actually building capital here. I know what I'm doing and I'm doing it well, so you can relax, right? Why would you do that? You see, there's something about the brain. It likes assurance. It does not like uncertainty. So when you preserve and build capital, the fear comes down. You understand? The fear comes down because you're rewarding your brain with assurance, right? That we're all right. We're okay. We know exactly where we are. We know exactly what we're doing. You don't have to panic. You don't have to detect danger anymore, right? You no longer have to fear when I'm seeing red or when I'm about to lose. You understand? Because I have set a beautiful set of rules for myself. So every time I trade, brain sees structure, and the brain likes that. Brain likes certainty. Brain likes assurance. Okay, so you add that together and the brain will calm down. When you take a trade, suddenly there's no panic because structure, because assurance, because certainty, right? I know this one, all right, it's something that we know, all right? But you use a different channel for your psychology plan, all right? And you include these few questions for yourself, all right? You include your feelings, how you felt when you trade or when you hold the trade, how you felt when you hold the trade, how you felt when you were entering the trade, all right? You journal how you felt, right, when you're coming out of the trade, all right? You journal how you felt when you saw a certain amount when you were coming out of the trade, all right? Whether it was from losing or winning, whatever amount you've seen from your broker, you journal the feeling you felt in that moment. This is where you have to be honest with yourself, all right? In that moment. So that journaling can help you to always be in control and always be obsessed with longevity in the market, not quick fix from the market. And that's the reason we will always journal. We will never stop journaling because we want to be in control of our emotions. I want you to remember this. Being the best loser in Forex is not about accepting defeat. It's about recognizing the power of failure as a stepping stone to a successful trader. All right. Good traders, they embrace losses. All right. They learn from them and they move forward. They don't look at losses as demonic or it's something you demonize. They embrace them. The real winners are often those who have faced the most losses. So the next time you're in a trade and you're losing, all right, and you find yourself questioning yourself, all right, you take a deep breath, right, and you breathe, and then you smile and say, I am learning, I am growing, and I am becoming a better trader. You don't suck. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not slow. You are on time because now you are following your psychological plan and you'll be fine. There's no need for you to panic anymore because you have now a set of rules for yourself and you have a better checklist than the one you had before. All right. So I thank you again for watching. This is all I have for today for the channel. See you again in the channel and cheers.